And now we are pleased to present our special youth session. So I want to welcome first our moderator of this discussion, Dr. Sarah Siddiqui. Dr. Siddiqui is pediatric and adolescent medicine specialist at NYS, American Academy of Pediatrics, Chapter 2. And she's going to be having a special discussion with our 4 youth panelists, Alex, Matt, Elizabeth, and Alina. So we're really grateful to these panelists. First of all, I just want to say for sharing their really personal experiences with us, about their health, about their social experiences. These are not paid advocates. They're not paid people. These are youth willing to share their experiences and give us a window into, what they've been through. So I really want to just caveat by saying that. So thank you all for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Clear the Vapor Conference 2022. And this session is called Youth Perspectives on Vaping and Nicotine. And we have a panel here of students. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Siddiqui, and I'm a pediatrician and a mom. I would like to just thank PAVE, Parents Against Vaping E-Cigs, and Meredith and Dorian for putting together this amazing conference. And I also wanted to thank our student guests here tonight with us, because it is so important for us to hear their perspective and what they've been through. Without further ado, I'd like to just turn it over to each one of them so that they can introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit about your background. Thank you. I'm just going to ask Alex to go first. Thank you.
I'm Alex Morin. I'm 18. I go to school up in Alabama, but I'm originally from Florida. I'm Matt's brother. Me and him live together. And we've basically been living together our whole life.
Can we go to Matt then next?
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Matt, Alex's brother. I'm from Palm Harbor, Florida originally. I'm 21 years old, currently live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm a third-year undergrad student at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and I'm majoring in economics and finance.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for being here. And Lizzie?
I'm Lizzie, I'm 20. I work right now. I did school for a little bit, but I wasn't motivated enough to continue to do it, so I just work right now.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you for being here. And Alina.
Hi, I'm Alina. I'm 15. I'm from New Jersey. I'm in high school.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here as well. Thank you. So we have different perspectives here, so I'm looking forward to hearing all about your journey. So let's just get into it. I'm gonna, so as a pediatrician and a mom, I know very well the health impacts that vaping can have on young people, not just, on our lungs and, but on the rest of our bodies too, on our brain, our immune system, and the whole body. And I think we are at a point now where hopefully we do know all these ill effects, or the kids do know, or even some young adults do know what some of the bad effects are. But sometimes the messaging, we still feel that it's not really going through, or isn't the only thing that people base their decision on whether or not to vape. So what do you think of currently of your peers or people your age think about the potential risks of vaping? Are they thinking about the risks when they make some of these decisions to start, or do you have any input on that, on, when you talk about to your friends about vaping? We can start with Alina.
I don't really think that most of my peers anyways really know what's in it and like what it is they're smoking. They just think it's cool and do it.
So that's still the trend, you would say, that kids are kind of still drawn to it?
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, a lot of the time I feel like when your friends do it and you don't do it, it kind of is just like awkward,
Yeah, yes. Yes. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? Maybe Lizzie, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, well, when I was going through what I had happened to me, it was a big, I was afraid that I wasn't really gonna have any friends to hang out with, because all my friends still to this day vape like every day, all the time. So
wow. So when they started, it was they weren't aware of some of the health effects that.
Yeah, no, like talking about it with my friends, like when we did it, all we knew was it was supposed to be safer. And it was I thought it was pretty cool. I thought people looked kind of like a dragon doing it. And I was like, that looks pretty dope. Kind of want to do that. And so it just, once that happens, it just spiraled into a big snowball. So.
Yeah. And some of the companies that kind of started that, I think, knew what they were doing, and unfortunately addicted quite a few children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Alex?
a couple
Go
cents
ahead,
to
Matt.
put in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I am 21 now, so 8th or 9th grade back in like 2013, 2014. I remember it was very few kids had these big bulky box mods, and they'd bring them into the bathroom and a ton of smoke would come up, and they thought they were so cool. But they used to get made fun of. There was at some point where there was a switch made to where, oh, now it's normal to vape all the time. Like I remember there was this meme, Vape Nation, and these people would hold up this sign like making fun of people who vaped. But then over the next couple of years, it spread like wildfire. Like it was cool to hit Juuls and like Enjoys and all the disposable ones. But the big bulky box mod ones kind of fell out of style from what I saw.
Oh, that's interesting that you say that. So in the beginning, it was kind of not looked at as something that everybody wanted to do.
It was almost like smoking. Like you look at some 14-year-old kid hitting a cigarette, like you're an idiot. It was kind of the same way. Like, why are you like what? But then it became normal.
Yeah, kind of did. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, a lot of my friends, like now they still do it. They realize it's bad, especially with everything that's happened with me, and a couple of my friends' stuff has even happened to them because of it. And a lot of them have quit and are very aware of how bad it is, and some of them are still aware of how bad it is, but haven't quit yet. Like they just look past it.
So some people are even being aware they have trouble stopping, and that's because it can impact. I mean, nicotine is definitely very addicting. It changes our brain, and it really is very, very difficult to quit. My heart goes out to the people that are, that when you're trying to stop, and then you're seeing everybody around you that's doing it as well, and that's got to be really hard. So we're gonna kind of go on to like some possible trends. So we've had a very interesting few years, if you could call it that, in terms of school and work environments, whether you're in high school, college, or working. We weren't really interacting with people a couple of years ago. So it was hard to get a take on how bad the vaping epidemic was becoming, or was it not happening when we were all shut down? We were hearing reports that it wasn't as bad because the kids were shut down or not in school, but then other people were telling you that it was still very easy to get, to obtain vapes and things like that to continue it. But during the shutdown, there was some reporting that the vaping was down a little bit. Right around the time when COVID first started, we were still dealing with things like EVALI, which is the vaping injury of your lungs, which was a severe injury. Some kids needed whole entire lung transplants. So I think it would be great to start with each one of you to see, in your peers, like, do you feel like the amount has changed at all in the past couple of years, or decreased like we were hearing, or is that not the case?
In the circles that I've been in, a lot of them have stopped, like because of what's happened to me, and like Matt, my mom, they're all very vocal about how bad it is, and it's definitely gotten a few people to stop. I've seen it less, I'd say. Like more people are aware that it's bad now. Like, I'd say there's less people my age doing it than I remember, like back when I was in high school.
So
like
the college.
Yeah, like a lot of kids have become aware, but it's still definitely a problem. I don't know how it is in high school now, but back when I was in high school, it was bad, and a lot of those kids have stopped.
They have stopped. Okay, great. That's good. What about you, Alina?
I definitely say I've seen more people do it, like growing up, like a lot more people. Like it is pretty hard to find somebody who hasn't at least just hit one at least one time, like I feel like everyone has at least done it once.
So it's still very common.
Yeah, it's very common. I was gonna say that when COVID first started, there was a good month where we couldn't really, all the stores were closed, and I think that might have been a period where kids might not have had access, but as soon as those stores opened up, they knew people to go get them. It's real easy. During the whole COVID, I hate to admit it, but I was vaping away the entire time, just sitting at home. There's nothing to do, so you kind of it becomes a way to pass the time. Like if you're doing something, you're just sitting there hitting your nicotine. It becomes muscle memory. It becomes part of being productive almost, and it's really bad.
Yeah, that's part of the psychological addiction. So not only a physical or physiologic addiction, but a psychological one that you need to do certain tasks. What about you, Lizzie?
Well, I knew there were like a couple of stores because I went to school 30 minutes from where I live, so like downtown, in the heart of the downtown. So there were stores that me and my friends knew we could go to, and they wouldn't card us. And then we knew like probably 10 people just off like Snapchat and Instagram that we could text. No, I mean, literally anytime you could text them at 3 a.m. and they would respond and you could go get one. And then during COVID, like at the peak of COVID, I found a website. I don't remember what it was based out of, but they didn't card you. Like they didn't have you take a picture of your ID or anything. They just sent it to you. And so I used that for a while. And then it got shut. I don't remember when it got shut down because I went to go look at getting more and then it asked for ID pictures. But there was a good like 4 or 5 months that they didn't ask and they just could send it to you.
Send it to your home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Alex, anything to add to that?
Oh yeah, over COVID, it was brutal. Like there were a lot of people that I know. Like it was just as accessible then.
Just as accessible. Yeah. I mean, I think some of the shops were considered essential, or some of those, that they sell cigarettes and alcohol, they were all essential businesses. So they were open. I mean, when you're addicted to something, it's very difficult to stop. So you try to find ways to get it. One thing I know, I think a lot of parents who probably will be listening struggle with is understanding how or why their kids started vaping. I know we touched on that a little bit. Would you feel comfortable just kind of giving us some of your first experiences or your friends' first experiences, like what led you to start? I know we talked about that a little bit, but what were some of the things that you remember, like your first few times, if you can talk about that at all for some of the parents that are listening.
I could go ahead.
Okay, sure.
Well, in high school, I didn't touch them at all. I kind of avoided it like the plague. But as soon as I got to college, it's Alabama football season, I started smoking a couple cigarettes during tailgates, which is dumb, I know, but it happened. I was 19 and stupid. So I was hooked on the cigarettes first, and then it became a matter of I'm tired of smelling. So I went up to the store, used my fake ID because the law was 21 by that time. Went up, got one, and then left. And it was a Stig. It was a Lush Ice Stig, I remember. Lush Ice is like a melon flavor. And I was hooked from then on. And for like 2 years, I was deep in an addiction. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was easy for you to obtain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You just have to find the right gas station. Clerks don't care. So they're going to give it to you. They're just making their $10 an hour and trying to get out of there. So I don't really blame them, but kind of sucks.
Yeah. And the Lush Ice, so that's not Juul. That was one of the different.
It was a disposable, like one of the ones you use and throw away. There's so many different flavors, but Lush Ice was one of the more popular ones I remember.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else want to share about one of their first experiences?
I first started in high school, like my sophomore year. I wasn't really aware that I was addicted to it. Probably like a couple weeks into me doing it, I got caught at school. And I got in-school suspension, but I mean, I got one the next day. So it's like, there's a lot of people that do it, and you can get it so easily, and you just don't realize it. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that didn't realize it until like COVID hit, and you had to wait a little bit to people would open up and you could go get them. And that's when everybody was like, oh, this might be a problem. So.
And just to get back on that suspension, do you think that helped in any way, getting suspended?
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't like, that was a big thing that my mom asked me about, like after everything happened. And I was like, I mean, you could have expelled me. You could have thrown me out of the school. Like there's kids that like, there's a couple friends of mine that I know that got thrown out of school for it, but they still did it. Like they went to the next school and they were doing it in the bathroom. Like it's not, you know, they think that, you know, getting them in trouble and confiscating it, and like if you had it in your room and your parents go and find it, like that's going to be it. Like, you know, they're not going to do it anymore. We took it. Like they know they're in trouble. It's whatever. But it's like, okay, you can take it. Like I got 5 other friends that I can get it from right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's an addiction, and that's
Yeah.
not how you treat addiction.
Yeah, I have a family member who used to work in gas stations. Like he owned a bunch of different gas stations. And we asked him one time if he was like, you know, does it bother you? Because like I'm his granddaughter and I've been through everything. And he's like, that's what you want to do with your money. That's what you want to do. Like it's a choice. It's not an addiction. It's a choice. So if you want to go spend your money on that, you can go spend your money on that. I'm making my money, so by all means, go ahead because you're paying me. So. And that's just kind of how it is with some of the people. So
No, that's unfortunate because you were young and your brain was still developing, and it became exposed to these certain chemicals, and it was only a matter of time before you got to that point where it's very addicting.
yeah.
And no, it's not a choice at that point. When you're addicted to something, it's not a choice at that point. So, you know, there needs to be other ways that we support and help and, you know, listen to what you're saying. And I think the schools are trying to do that, but maybe we can get Alina's perspective.
I think the first time I ever tried it was in school, and it was in a bathroom, and a bunch of my friends were there, and obviously everyone was doing it, and they all were just like, oh, try it. And at first I was like, no. And then as they're like, oh, it's not a big deal. And then it kind of just led from doing it with your friends to having my own and buying my own and going to other people and getting it. And I really do feel like getting it is just beyond easy. If it goes from Snapchat and Instagram, like Lizzie had said, to just going in a gas station, or even like some of my friends would wait for people to be outside of the stations, and they would go up to like adults and ask them to go buy it and get it like that.
And adults would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about you, Alex? Did we share how you started?
I started,
First, if you...
I was finishing a middle school when I started. Just a bunch of my friends started, and I had a bunch of friends that were older. And then high school, and they just knew their ways of getting it, and it was bad.
So middle school. You were like 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just turned 13 at that point. Or it was right after the end of middle school. It was that summer.
That summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just jewels and stuff back then. Like that's what was big. Like with the kids my age, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know a few of you here have had some specific, very scary experiences related to vaping. Does anybody want to share some of their experiences or give a little bit more insight or details about what happened to them health-wise? Or
Well, I've had 6 seizures now.
oh wow.
The vaping, dehydration, lack of sleep, all of that, which vaping contributes to. Like that has made me scared. I haven't been scared for a while of that because I haven't had one since November 1st.
Oh, very good.
Good.
Good job.
It was just after the first couple seizures, I wasn't like too scared, but then I kept having more, and I knew the vaping was a problem. Like it is a problem. Like what my family had to go through was too much. I felt horrible for them.
So you were in the hospital?
Yeah. Yeah. I just felt horrible for my mom and everyone and everyone that was worried about me.
Yes. Yeah, that must have been very scary for you too. to have that happen.
I
Yeah.
ended up going to the hospital for it. It wasn't really like, it wasn't a seizure like Alex, but it was very much like I had cold symptoms and like my back hurt. I had headaches, neck pain, like it just was like you had the flu, kind of icky feeling, achy, and it was just like whatever. So it, like 2-3 days go past, and I'm like, okay, I'm going walking places, and I'm getting really winded, and going upstairs, like going, like my room is right next to my parents' room, and it's like 5 or 7 feet from my door to their door, and it would be like so hard to just walk to their room because it was hard to breathe. And so my mom's a nurse, and so it got to the point where like I was thrown up, and like it just got really bad. It was just like, I mean, it was like you had the flu and the stomach bug and a cold all at the same time, and it was just like, wow, okay. So I went upstairs and I was in and out of sleep for a lot of the time. And so my mom ended up counting how many breaths I took within a minute, and it was way over what it should have been, way over what it should have been. So she ended up calling the doctor, and I think the day before that, I had just kept telling her, I was like, I feel like I can't breathe. Like, I feel like I can't get a breath of air without having to like breathe really hard. And so she told them what was going on. She was like, okay, this is happening, that's happening, blah, 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 blah. And then the doctor asked, what's her lip color like? And she was like, it's pink right now, but it's been going really pale. And so, yeah, so that's when she was like, okay, you need to go to the ER. Like, you need to get in the car, you need to go now. And so we got there, and I was like, my mama needs to give me a wheelchair because I can't do this. So she got a wheelchair, we went in, and everybody, was explaining everything. I remember going in there and checking in. I remember getting wheeled over to get like my blood pressure and everything, and then they put a pulse ox on my finger. So before I went to the hospital, I had gone to the doctor to see what it was, because it was a week before I went to the hospital. And they were like, oh, it might be bronchitis, it might be this, but she took my pulse ox and she was like, I'm gonna use a different one because this one's acting weird. So she took it on a different one. And like both of them were being weird, she said, and was like, I'm sure like these are just acting weird. I think the batteries are weird, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So we get to the hospital, go in. My oxygen level was 67.
Oh my goodness.
Instead of 95 to 100 between where it should be.
Yes.
So I don't remember the first 3 days of being in the hospital. Like I remember getting wheeled back there and being in a room for a little bit, and then I got moved up to the ICU. I don't remember being in the ICU, like any of it. So then I went to the progressive care unit, and I remember being in there, but I mean, I was on oxygen, I got put on BiPAP, I got put on humidified air, steroids, remdesivir. Yeah, they took 2 COVID tests when I went to the doctor, and then they took 3 at the hospital because they thought it was COVID. And I was like, taking 5 tests, they're all negative. Don't think it's COVID. I think we need to move on from that, because it wasn't right when everything was like at its peak. It was a little bit after, but people were still like, don't go outside, be cautious. And so they were like, this has got to be COVID. And it was like, you've taken 5 tests. I can probably promise you it's not COVID. But it was very scary. Was not expecting that to happen. Did not think that it could happen. And they took my CT scan, and it was, when you get your lungs x-rayed, it's supposed to be your bones, everything, and then it's supposed to be black. Yeah. Well, it was, you can see the bones and everything, and then it was gray.
Yes.
I mean, the whole thing was gray, and then there was white spots in it, and it was like, I was like, what is this? And they were like, this is all inflammation. Like your lungs have swelled, like they're swollen. Yeah, but the doctor came in and was like, yeah, the only reason that you are able to stand, walk, talk, anything is because you're a 19-year-old kid that's, other than vaping, completely fine. That's the only reason you're here standing. Because if it was like my mom or my dad, I mean, they wouldn't be able to talk. They wouldn't be able to move, like nothing. So it was just crazy that one thing can do so much in such a short, such a short amount of time. And it was, I was like, wow. There's no words for it.
Yeah, for a young, healthy person like yourself to not be able to walk just 5 feet is significant. That doesn't happen in older adults for years and years of chronic lung disease, and for that to happen so quickly to someone like yourself who's no medications, healthy. Do you have a history of asthma or anything? No, right? So nothing else was wrong, and it just targeted your lungs, and they became so inflamed. But still, you were able to talk and walk. Mm-hmm. With an oxygenation level that was so low. And just for everybody to know, EVALI is basically the lung injury associated with e-cigarettes and vaping. And, we're not hearing about it as much now, but it's still happening. Thank you for sharing that. That was so moving. And I'm glad that you're feeling better now and you've recovered. I'm so happy to hear that. That must have been a really scary experience for you and your family.
Yeah, it was, I don't remember much of it, but it was not fun. No. Yeah, I would not want to go through it again.
No, and you don't want anybody else that you know to go through that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was really moving. Alina, did you have anything to add?
I haven't had any, I'm fortunate not to have any issues with it or be hospitalized or anything like that. I stopped a little more earlier because I got caught. I didn't stop the first time I got caught. The second time I got caught, when my mom actually took action and everything, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like kids, even when they get caught and parents think that they're stopping, it just kind of makes you, it makes you want to find another way. Okay, how am I going to get around this now? Where am I going to hide it? Where am I going to stash it now? So it's like, as much as parents, want to stop, and I've watched a lot of my friends, my best friend, struggle with addiction. It's like, as much as you want them to stop, it's such a problem that a lot of these kids are like knowing that what's in it or knowing what they're doing can't stop. And it's like,
yeah. Matt and Alex, I wanted you also to kind of share, specifically Matt too, and I know we heard from Lizzie's mom as well, as like a family member of someone who is suffering from some of the medical ill effects. Like, how did you handle that? What Alex was going through with his health issues and having seizures and seeing him that the vaping might have caused that a little bit. Can you share some insight about how family feels like?
Yeah, it's definitely scary because I've been closer with Alex than anyone else in my whole life. So hearing that he had a seizure and my mom called me in tears, freaking out, like hyperventilating, like she thought he was going to die the first time he turned blue, she said. So
oh, wow. Just
hearing that and knowing the nature of my mom is just the scariest thing ever. Actually, his last seizure was here in Tuscaloosa in November, and I sat with him in the hospital for 13 hours after it happened because they had to do a bunch of brain scans and stuff. So it's definitely scary. As far as health effects, personally, for me, I have asthma. Okay. So it definitely, my lungs were screwed up for 2 years. I couldn't run probably more than 100 yards at any given time. It was bad. Yeah. And I would wake up every morning and have morning sickness and just get sick in the toilet like I was pregnant. But it was just, I'd always wake up, get a fat buzz off my nicotine, and then I'd feel nauseous about 20 minutes later and go throw up. But that was just a cycle. I needed it. I'd wake up and be almost excited because I could get that buzz. And then I'd get sick. My lungs would be all messed up. I wouldn't get hungry until probably 5, 6 p.m. And even then I'd need nicotine to get hungry. So it's a weird dependence thing in addition to the physiological dependence. It's brutal.
And as it's happening, do you realize that that's what's happening, or do you have insight into that?
Personally, I think I was mature enough to realize, because I was already a college student, that, yeah, this is what's happening. I knew it was hard. I tried to quit probably 10 times, and it just never really happened until the last time, obviously. But it's super duper hard, and I don't know. I knew how bad it was for me. I'm trying to put it into words. I knew how bad it was for me, but I didn't care. I was going to get my buzz, or I was going to get my hit either way, whether I had to go ask a friend or, I was shelling out probably $20 on a disposable every 2 days. It was brutal.
Wow.
yeah, I'd wake up, repeat the cycle every single day, just feeling sick as a dog. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of just brings us up to the next part. Like the next question is related to the addiction aspect of it. It is really tough. We all have to acknowledge how tough it is when a person is dependent on nicotine and you have that strong urge to vape, even despite being symptomatic. Quitting is incredibly hard. It does take multiple attempts, and I want to really, put that in bold. It takes multiple attempts, so you don't want to give up just because that first time didn't work. But I wonder if anyone here has experience or can share some of the ways that they used to quit and what was the experience like, and what can you share? Because, as a parent, it's tough to watch your child suffer, and you wish that you could just take it away from them and, they won't use it anymore. But, it's a lot tougher than that. So if you can share some of that insight about how you managed to quit, what some of the support system was, or what you've been doing since then, how you can help kids that may be suffering now.
I think number one thing about quitting is the person quitting has to actually want it. They have to actually want to quit. If, like, I understand at a school, if they catch them vaping, they can't just not punish them. They have to take it. They have to suspend them. Like, I understand. You can't just let that go unpunished. But the key would be to get them to want to, by either educating them. I'm not a parent, so I don't really know how this would go. But education and making them really realize what it does to them and want to quit is the thing. But one tool that I use, it's probably not the best thing to use, but I figured I needed to get rid of the oral fixation first, that habit of bringing something to my mouth. So I started using these little nicotine oral pouches called Zins. Not a great product. They kind of mess up your mouth and can still cause cancer. But for me, it helped get rid of the oral fixation. And from there, I was able to wean off of the vapes and nicotine altogether. So yeah.
Did you ever reach out to your doctor or for cessation, like for nicotine replacement therapy or anything like that?
No, I just kind of took it into my own hands, and I was like, okay, Alex has had what, 5 seizures now, or however many it was at the time because of this shit. Like, if I don't set an example for him, he'll never quit. It was like now or never kind of thing. So
Right. Go ahead, Alex. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, just having a good support system is good too. Like people that will, like, yeah, you have to hold yourself accountable, but having people around you that will also hold you accountable is really, really good for that.
And if people around you happen to be vaping, that must make it really difficult too.
Yeah, like, and trying to quit with people is like it's a really good way. Like,
yeah, a lot of my friends quit together, and they held each other accountable instead of just doing it alone. You have someone else like to text or see every day and be like, how's it going? Like, withdrawals are pretty bad, but I'm getting through it. It's kind of good to just have someone there with you to do it. If you have a friend who's looking to quit at the same time, perfect.
Yeah.
I had we have a neighbor. There's a lot of doctors that live by me, I guess, but she's a nurse as well, and she specializes in thoracics. And she did a whole big thing on vaping, and so we talked to her after, and I mean, I found out a lot that I didn't know. That was like, wow, it's put out there for you that this stuff is supposed to be safer, and it's going to help you quit. But it doesn't. If anything, I think it probably makes it worse because there's 2 times as much nicotine in a vape than there is in a cigarette. So, I mean, you're getting more nicotine than you were when you were smoking a cigarette. And so she helped us a lot. She recommended going on Wellbutrin, which I did, and that helped a lot. And then she recommended taking, like, if you go to a fast food restaurant or anything and you get straws, if you put them inside of each other, it mimics the pull of a vape. So I did that a lot, and I chewed a lot of gum. Like, I had a lot of suckers. It was a lot of oral fixation stuff for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes it does take multiple attempts, and you can't let that also discourage, right? Because it's an addiction, and so sometimes it's very, very difficult. But thank you for sharing that. Alina, did you have anything to add? Oh, you're still muted, I think. Okay.
So I got caught last summer. I think more towards the beginning, and forgot what I said. I think I said it was someone else's, whatever it was. At the beginning of this school year, my mom went to zip up my bag and I had it in my bag. So I like freaked out and grabbed my bag and she went through it and found it. And then from there, she went on Facebook and started posting about it. She went to the store and confronted the people. It was a whole thing. And even at first, so she had me on complete lockdown, no phone. I couldn't go anywhere. I would just go to school. She took away my backpack. I had like this little briefcase I would have for all my stuff. But I feel like even at that point, I was still, I wasn't like, I still was doing it. So she had all that taken away. But I feel like the thing that really was hard was that even though I didn't have access to it at home, there's a whole school full of people that walk around with them in their pockets. So at first I didn't quit. She posted and did all of that, and I still was like, okay, I don't care, whatever. And then I think like a week or two later, she sat me down and had me watch like it was like the longest documentary I have ever seen. I was like falling asleep at the beginning, and then I was watching it and everything, and it was explaining what it does and everything like that. And I feel like from that, I was kind of like, and at first it was a little hard. Like I would get like really bad headaches and stuff, and kind of just like, one hit won't hurt. But eventually I like stopped. And even now, my friends do it. And I feel like as much as I thought in my head that it was bad and I was going to lose friends over it, saying no, they're just like, okay, now it's just like, they're not being judgmental about it.
Okay. I just wanted to touch upon one more thing. I know we're kind of getting into, close to the end, but if you have a few more minutes to hang out, I wanted to just touch on some of the mental health issues that occur with vaping or when you're quitting. There are some new products out on the market that's, vaping, not necessarily nicotine, but some other products, but it's still vaping, and they're kind of promoting it as, ways to relieve stress and anxiety and even depression. Like if you could share something about some of the mental health part of vaping that maybe you went through, and do you see how some of these other products could make things worse rather than better? We know that nicotine can, in addition to the addiction part of it, when you're starting to quit or when you stop it, it does really cause you to have a lot of anxiety and depression when you're coming off. Did anybody want to just talk about that aspect of it or how that affected you?
I think that for me personally, when all the COVID stuff was happening and there was a lengthy period of time where we were all kind of forced to stay inside, I feel like it compounded any feeling of loneliness or depression that someone would normally have, and not seeing people for that long, I think it made that much worse. I think in general, it just brings down your mood. Like I've seen people who, when they don't have nicotine, they're the most angry person, like most angry, lashing out person. Like they could fail all their classes, but God forbid they lose their nicotine, they will freak out. And it's just crazy to see how mentally people become so attached to it. And I could see how if someone were to quit, it could kind of throw things off and make people feel mentally unwell.
Yeah.
For me, it made anxiety a lot worse, especially when I was like, when I had to quit. It caused me, like Matt said, to get angry. I was really irritated with everybody. I didn't care who you were. If you did anything, like, you're annoying me. Get away from me. Like, I don't have my nicotine with me. Please leave. So it was hard, and it was hard mentally too, because just I knew everybody did it, and it was like, it just was like lonely. Yeah. I was very afraid I was going to lose friends. Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it was very tough. Alex, did you have anything to share?
Yeah, I used to get very, very stressed out over little things and over not having a vape. Like, it definitely distracted me from things I should have been paying attention to, like school or sports, stuff like that. It was big mental block, and I don't know, just made me very anxious and stressed.
Yeah, and it's important for parents to know that too, that while, part of the support that you need is to help you through that part of that, the mental part of the quitting. Alina, did you have anything to add?
I think the first couple of weeks, I mean, I was a little not myself, but I feel like the most like I was just so agitated and aggravated with everyone. Like it was just like everyone pissed me, even my teachers, I was getting snappy with them those couple of weeks. I just was so just mad for absolutely no reason. I was just like completely agitated. And even my best friend who has an issue with it, the first 3 days that she was in the hospital, and the first 3 days because she couldn't touch anything because she called me from there, and she was like, mind you, she's there because of whatever. She said something about it, and I was like, you're in the hospital, what are you talking about smoking? And she snapped so like that was the first time I've ever seen her even snap at me like that. It was like, and watching her go through all of it, she was so aggravated too. And it was just like I feel like even people around, like, at least for me, it's really hard to go through that and for people to stay by you when you're going through all of that and having your friends having to deal with that, because it's just like, how do you know they're going to stick around? How do you know they're not going to just get fed up with this and just quit on me,
Yeah, I had a couple of friends actually be like, no, like, you're like, I don't know what's going on with you. Like, I know you're going through withdrawal and everything, but like, I'm not about to do this. So, I mean, it sucks, but it shows you who's really going to be there for you and who's going to show up if you really need them. So,
yeah, but it's important to get that support wherever you can find it. And if there's a friend that, can't support you, then you find people that are supportive. So I just wanted to get one last thought from you guys. So the organization Parents Against Vaping E-cigs, it supports parents across the country. So and with supporting parents and children, trying to prevent children that vape, trying to help children that vape, and then supporting parents of kids that vape. And so what do you think one thing or a couple of things or whatever you want to share that the adults in your life would know about vaping, or what kind of things do parents not get at this point? Or is there anything that, we can promote for parents to help kids, whether they're vaping or whether they're trying to quit or, they have quit? What can we do as parents to support you better and more?
I think the biggest thing parents can do to get through to their kids is you got to make sure that the kid knows you're in their corner. You're not their opponent. You're not their enemy. You're on their team. You only want what's best for them. So if you find them with a vape, don't start yelling at them and, make them feel worthless for having this. It's normal. Most kids, I'd argue, under 18 have one now. So I feel like if they know you're on their team, they're going to open up to you more. They're going to treat it as a you and them versus the vape rather than you versus them, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, like building off what Matt said, my mom, like, she realized and she told me like that we would argue a lot less about that type of stuff when she would talk with me and not at me. Like, that's what she would always say.
Absolutely. Oh, Lizzie, I think you're still muted.
Go
ahead.
I say probably like for my mom, she didn't do as much research on it as like she did after everything happened, but it was just I mean, for her it was mostly like it was promoted as being safer than cigarettes, so it's safer than cigarettes. But like that was one thing that was like, she was like, okay, well, I need to do some more research and look into what's actually in this stuff instead of just being like, yeah. So
I have to interject. I don't know how many kids on here are have their parents with them or listening at home. None of them. Just me. Okay. I mean, I knew a lot about vapes and stuff, but I did not know how bad they were as far as addiction and how much nicotine was in them. And as I started learning, you know, I would tell her and I would send her videos and I would send her pictures. And I mean, I knew she was at school just going, oh, bro, leave me alone. I don't want to know all this stuff. But it was like any little bit of anything that I can get in her brain to try to realize what this stuff is doing and what it can do. Because you do feel helpless as a parent. You really, once they leave the house to go to school, you know, and now they're making hoodies with the stuff built in.
Yes.
It's like you feel completely defeated. And how am I going to get this fixed? And once you realize your child is doing it, they're so far gone that the addiction is already there.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And I've had so many parents say, what can I do? What can I do? And all I say is educate, and hope that they don't end up in the hospital. I think it's really, really hard. I want PAVE to be able to get out there and help all the parents and help the kids understand. But when you're under that kind of addiction, which is up there with heroin, I feel like it's almost impossible until the kid really wants to not do it anymore. And it seems like the people who have decided they don't want to do it anymore are the ones that have almost had their life taken away, which is so sad. And I used to tell Lizzie, aren't you angry? Aren't you just really pissed off that these companies are out there totally, they're lying and they're putting a product out there to get you hooked really quickly, and they've got you by the balls. Doesn't that make you mad? It makes me mad.
Yeah.
You know, and now they just keep changing it. They keep adding stuff and changing the advertisement, and people are falling into that trap, and it just makes me so mad. And I want all of these guys who I'm so proud of, listening to their stories off to the side, really proud of you, because it is hard. And there is a social stigma and with not doing it, you know, and so I'm proud of them because it takes a lot to stand up to this big industry. You know, it really does.
Absolutely.
And to watch your child in the hospital like that with the tubes and everything, you never want anybody to go through that, any other parent to go through that. The expense, not everybody's got health insurance, not everybody's got good health insurance, and the bills that come through, now it's on your parents.
I remember
nobody thinks about that.
I remember what really helped me was I got out of the hospital and both my mom and dad turned around and was like, if you do this and this happens again, the bill's on you. And I was like, I cannot, my bank account is not that big. So I'm gonna not do that.
Yeah, so that was like a little bit of a motivating factor for you.
You know, the saying, when you know better, you do better. And so that's kind of what we were trying to say to her. Now you know what this stuff can do. And so if you walk away from this and choose to do it again and land yourself back in there, that's on you. And that may be mean, but yeah, it's really tough love.
I think it's hard because the support has to be there too. You're trying to support your child in, you know, helping them to quit, and it has to come from them, like what Matt said. Right. And what Lizzie said, and Alex and Alina, that has to come from within, and then you kind of have to find your support, and you do it. And it's very, very difficult, but you know, it's just something, and it is a big industry, and they targeted our children. They targeted our children because they would be lifetime customers, and it's all about money.
That's right.
I just wanted to touch on Alina, just really quick, to get your insight on what parents should know. What should parents know?
I feel like parents should be more aware and, you know, look for in their kids if they're doing it and actually pay attention more. Because I feel like half of the time parents don't know until they accidentally find something. I really think that being educated on what you're putting in your body, and I think that schools, even, like, I know I've had a couple of maybe like where they have like an older person come in and basically lecture us. I feel like even with that, maybe having like younger people come and do that, because I feel like when an old person is coming in, like all the kids are sitting in there like basically mocking him and just like, okay, whatever. I don't know, I feel like being educated on what you're putting in your body is like really one of the best things you can honestly give kids. And I feel like educating kids younger now, and because I know 6th graders that are doing it. So it's like, I really feel like school should start opening younger kids' eyes into what it is from little, because I think maybe my first one was in like 7th grade. So I didn't even get really educated on what it was until I was older. Mom, do you have anything?
Hi, I'm Alina's mom here in the background. So this has definitely been a really tough journey for us. But I think that parents should know that, number one, you're not alone. And yes, you do feel defeated, and it's really frustrating to, you know, deal with this. And then, when I first went to the school about it, the principal's, his attitude was basically, well, it's hard to detect, so there's nothing we could really do about it. I think that it's important to not accept that as an answer, because now I'm working with the local municipal alliance to put more education programs into the school about this, starting at the elementary level. And we're actually having a town hall meeting, hopefully in June, that's dedicated to the issues surrounding the vaping and e-cigarettes. So don't back down. Don't take no for an answer, because at the end of the day, a lot of people, it's easier for them to dismiss it and not want to do anything about it. And also what helped us was counseling. And, her therapist basically said it's better to overparent than not parent at all. So even though she didn't like me for a little bit, we got through it, and, she's, turned it around, and, here today. So.
Wow, very good. Thank you. Thank you for that insight. And then if I could just I know I keep extending it, but you guys are so informative, and it's really nice to just hear your stories. What would you tell younger kids? So let's say you had a child in front of you that maybe hasn't been exposed, maybe has been exposed, but hasn't tried it yet. What would you tell them? If you were one of the people that were going into schools, what would you maybe tell your younger self or a younger child, like anything to impart?
I would definitely tell younger kids just to not fall into the peer pressure, to really fight the peer pressure, to really just don't do it, because once you start, it's really hard to stop.
I think the question to ask a kid to maybe put it into perspective would be, are you ready to keep buying these things for the rest of your life? Because you're getting on that track. It's so hard to quit. Most people don't. So
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
and going off that, you do it more and more the more you do it. You might go through a vape in a week the first time you have it, and then the more you do it, it could be 2 days or a day in between you getting it, and now it's like you're shoveling out $20 every day when you could be saving that up and end up buying a Ferrari, or I don't know, so going and splurging on yourself, do something else with it instead of doing something that's detrimental to your health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just tell a younger kid or younger me, think about your family and how much they care about you, and what you can make them go through if you keep doing it. It's not just affecting you if you're doing it, it's affecting everyone that's close to you if there are negative enough effects.
Absolutely. Wow, thank you. I think we could probably go on for another hour, but I won't do that to you guys. I really want to thank you for imparting some, sharing your story and spending time here, and helping parents and kids hopefully prevent them from starting, or know that they're not alone if they have started, and know that there's support out there, and that you all are amazing for sharing your journey. And thank you to your parents too for being here. It's really amazing. So thank you. And I want to also thank PAVE for putting this session together and putting the entire conference together, which I'm sure will be amazing. And I truly am thankful to be a part of this. And I'm really happy to meet you guys and know you. Thank you.